Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Justin Frederick and Ryan Gerdes. Ryan, Justin just cannot be trusted, bro. Just cannot be trusted.
I mean, is that what we came to tell everyone the shit that we already all know?
I know we're stating the obvious. So you couldn't make it to lunch
one
today.
mistake.
You couldn't make it. You couldn't make it to lunch today, and so so we decided to go out to Twin Peaks, pick up some wings and a couple beers. And he's like, "Hey, dude," he goes, "What kind of wings do you normally get?" I'm like, "I like medium." He's like, "Oh no, man, you got to have the pineapple. What was it? The pineapple
habanero.
Pineapple habanero." He goes, "I had them last time. They weren't that spicy, dude." So we ordered a dozen wings. I got through 5.
I got through 3.
And he got through 3.
4. Actually 4. I did 4.
We were sucking down. I don't even like beer. I'm like, yeah, I need a second beer. And how about a glass of water?
The tall ones, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
So you know that old joke with Norm Macdonald? He's just like, you could be the best mortgage lender in the world. You're never going to be known as Justin, the best mortgage lender in the world, or Justin, the handsomest guy in the world. Like you could do all these amazing things, but you have sex with one goat.
You'll always be
the rest of your life.
Just takes one, man.
Just takes
one. All right. So interesting news. We've been obviously talking a lot about the market, and I don't even know what to text. Go ahead and just text back to 623 AZ Recon. That's back to 623 AZ Recon. There's so many numbers that go into understanding, what's happening in the market. Is it truly like we see it and how we perceive it? Is there something that's going on in the back end of the market that we need to be paying more attention? And so the title of this, home buyers are backing out of deals at record pace. And I would say, warnings to sellers on how you handle contracts and how you handle your negotiations. According to Redfin, and it pains me to say their name, last month, 56,000 purchase agreements were canceled, and 15% of all pending sale transactions. In March of 2020, which was a couple months ago, 17.6% of all sales contracts, meaning buyer submits an offer, seller accepts. Now we're opening up escrow. In March, 17.6% of all sales contracts canceled.
We've had this conversation before, and whenever the pendulum swings one way, it swings the other. There's always a market disruptor that happens during COVID. We were having in excess of 20% here in Maricopa County fallout. Why? Because everyone was going over there making offers $20,000, $50,000 above list price or / appraised value. And so they would just go over there, throw a contract at the appraiser, and then, cross their fingers and pray. and then the appraiser would come back and say, yeah, I mean, if you want to close on this thing, you're going to need to come up with another $50,000 plus your down payment plus closing costs.
Because the value's not there.
Right, because the value's not there. So inevitably they would take a hatchet to the contract, right? And so that was, now we're talking about completely different reasons, right? So they're talking quite a bit about what's going on in Florida, but and insurance, et cetera. But that's been something that's kind of been brewing over there for a while. That there's if the insurance companies had really kind of hedged their bets, they would have done a slow drip on this thing for years now, because there's been a handful of different natural disasters where they had to pay out billions,
yeah.
And then they would just do slight adjustments because they didn't want to disrupt the market too much. Or maybe they had their hands in the market a little bit too much, and so they didn't want to do that, or they didn't want to have a certain amount of stuff on their books. And so I can't speak too intelligently on that, but I can tell you that when Hurricane Alley and it's every single year FEMA's got a huge a huge claim in all around the Gulf of Mexico and even further north. So this doesn't surprise me. They're just kind of at a point where they're like, we need to raise our premiums, and it's happening everywhere.
And they're extreme though.
Yeah.
They're extreme.
And then the other thing that they haven't accounted for, that they've backlogged, is the cost of materials. So they even up to a year ago were still billing out on replacement costs at about 125 to $150 a square foot. And that hadn't changed in about a decade.
Sure.
And then now I can't find one company that's doing anything under $200 a square foot. So that's
It's huge.
it's a 30% increase on replacement costs. Therefore, that's going to reflect on their premiums.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
But you're right. They should have been doing that a long time ago. We've been seeing, since COVID, we've been seeing the cost of building.
I don't know why people just don't ask us what they should do. We got the answers.
Just give us a call. Text the word back to 623 AC Recon.
Yeah, so I think a part of it. I think, Ryan, sellers, it's having the right agent to help you navigate the process. And what sellers, I don't know if they completely understand the home buying process and how the inspection period plays into it. And so what sellers don't understand is a buyer or a buyer's agent will be advising them, say, hey, listen, let's lock down the contract. Let's get a contract accepted by the seller, understanding we have a 10-day inspection period, because that is where the majority of these canceled contracts are occurring, is during the inspection period. And sometimes it's legit. We just recently had a buyer go out and we did an inspection. Turns out the foundation was shot. We're talking about a $55,000 repair for the foundation. And the seller was offering a $2,500 concession. $2,500 concession.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so our buyer just I'm not paying the $52,500 for this. And that was a my opinion, a legitimate walk.
Absolutely.
But buyers are coming in saying, okay, I'm going to lock down this contract. Then I'm going to use the inspection period to actually determine if I even want this house. The house is now off market, as far as the MLS concerns. And then they go in there and go, oh, yeah, hey, don't like the neighborhood, this and that. But using that inspection period to get out of the contract.
Yep. Well, and I think just for all of our listeners and viewers, inspection periods, we most commonly think too is having an inspector going in there on the property when it's their opportunity to inspect everything, the overall deal, to make sure that they're understanding the disclosures from the lender, locking their rate, doing those kinds of things, because you can't lock a rate until you have a contract, right? And then you're not really going to know what's happening on a Friday night until, if you go under contract on a Wednesday and you want to know what the neighborhood's like on a Friday night, you got to wait a couple of days. So there's all kinds of these other external things that you're inspecting during those inspection periods, more than just the home itself.
Well, I think one of the biggest things right now is just like this document or this article says is homeowner insurance premiums. With the increases that we've seen across the board of homeowners insurance premiums, we could be very conservative on what we're putting down for a homeowners insurance premium, and sometimes the annual premiums that are coming in are just blowing us out of the water. We used to use a standard number probably 4 years ago. We
remember the good old
would
days.
use $50 a month for a homeowner's insurance premium.
So what are you guys doing now?
Now we're using an average of 100, 125 on average, but we're seeing, we're seeing $3,600 annually. Sometimes we're seeing in the $4,000 annual insurance premiums, just depending on what's the past with this home. Where is it located? Florida's one of those ones where I've seen $5,000, $6,000.
I would just say for all of our savvy homeowners out there, if you're not already doing this, every single year when your insurance is coming up for a renewal, I'm very much so a loyal guy, but when it comes to insurance, I will shop the hell out of you every single year.
Yeah.
One of my properties, they just tried to increase it by 50%. And I was already paying $3,000 a year on it, which is not terrible. In my opinion, it's not terrible. But they were trying to bring it up to $4,500. And so that kind of got me thinking, what the heck is going on here? Like, why am I seeing this big of a jump? And so, I think we've already talked about a couple of those determining factors. But I started shopping them, and now I have the same coverage and from a very reputable company for $1,600 a year.
Yeah, I like that.
So
All right,
I
if
had to do it.
If you are a seller or thinking about selling, it is imperative to be working with an agent that understands the home buying process, can help you navigate the home buying process. And if you want information and wanting to learn how the process works and how to avoid, we can't 100% guarantee you're going to avoid a cancellation, but we can mitigate those percentages. Would love to have that conversation with you. All you got to do is text the word back to 623-AZ-RECON. That's back to 623-AZ-RECON. Justin,
Can I jump in here and ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you're the listing agent on that last example, the $52,000 settlement issues
For the foundations.
or foundation settlement issues, if you were the listing agent, what would you have done differently?
well, it's a tough one. So let me give you a little bit more backstory to this. They weren't in an equity position to be able to just afford to pay the $55,000. What I would have done as a listing agent, which this agent didn't do, because oftentimes when I'm representing the buyer, I'm trying to have verbal conversations and verbal negotiations. And I'm sure my buyer, there was a number because he really liked the house. $55,000 wasn't his number. What he was
wasn't
willing
that motivated.
wasn't that motivated. And as a listing agent, is getting on the phone with the buyer's agent and trying to negotiate, trying to find that happy medium. What does the seller have to do and cough up at the end of the day to keep the buyer in the negotiations? Because I don't know if my buyer was 100% like, I'm not going to pay any of it, but $2,500 offer and just sending that over via the Binzer response, which, we don't want to get into the details of that, but now you've forced my buyer into making a decision because now that they've got this document, they've got a couple of options. And so that listing agent wasn't getting on the phone with me, wasn't having those verbal conversations. How do we save the deal? And I told him, and the other thing I told him as a buyer's agent, I said, listen, I understand you want to go out and get your own bids. Go out and get your own bids. Just let's extend the inspection period. But they wouldn't extend the inspection period, so
Bye.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just goes to show. I don't care what kind of a digital age that we're in, text and email and whatnot. Those are for relaying information, not for negotiations
Right.
or not for solving problems. You need to get your ass off the couch, get on the phone, get face to face with the people that you're working with, in order to overcome these issues.
Well, and I would say that Ryan, and I think we have a proven track record of doing it. And our cancellation rate, when we represent both buyer and seller,
Nil.
is incredibly. It pained me on this one to actually have a cancellation, but I mean, the seller just put our backs to the corner.
I might have going over to the homeowner's insurance. I might have encouraged them to seek out reparations from the insurance company because that's a big nut, and structural is covered under pretty much every single insurance policy I've seen. So I think there's, but again, you can't even have that type of problem solving session if you're not picking up the phone.
Agreed.
Right?
Because my buyer wanted the house,
Right.
or our buyer, they
Right.
wanted a house, but
Yeah.
I'm like, if I can't get you on the phone, I can't get you on the phone.
Yep.
And it's really just part of our negotiating strategies. We're incredibly good at this. If you are thinking about putting your house on the market and you're wanting to understand the process and the strategies that we implement to mitigate cancellation rates, go ahead and text the word back to 623-AZ-RECON. That's back to 623-AZ-RECON. Justin, I want to throw this to you because I think this is the other element that would help sellers drastically from this issue. And it comes down to when I am the listing agent and I receive an offer from a buyer, okay, the steps that I take to vet that buyer, to find out, and get on the phone. And I'm amazed as a listing agent when I get offers, how many times I don't get a phone call from the buyer's lender. Because as a listing agent, when I get an offer, before I even present an offer to my seller, I'm on the phone with the lender and have they shopped for homeowners insurance? Where are they at? And asking the right questions to vet the buyers rather than just, hey, seller, we got these offers and let's pick the highest and best. What are the questions that their agents should be asking the lender?
I mean, you definitely want to see, well, where are we struggling on debt to income ratios? Are we how much concessions do we need in order to make this deal work? What's the credit scores look like? Are we secure in this financing that you're calling conventional right now, or is there an edge? Maybe we have to go FHA once it gets through underwriting. Have they been through underwriting? What documents have you collected? Things like that. Now, when it comes to the insurance portion of it, until we have an address under contract, I wouldn't expect anybody to shop it out. So we definitely do that during the due diligence period or the inspection period. And we try to get them to shop that homeowner's insurance out basically as soon as we're signing disclosures. But I agree with you, Mike. I mean, having the conversation with us, really digging into their file. I don't want to disclose too much as a lender up front when I'm calling.
The amount of information Ryan and I have gotten from other lenders.
Yeah.
Though.
I mean, but if they ask me, I'm definitely not going to just, huddle up and go into a ball and get away from it, because I want to make sure that they're getting the information they need to make a decision on who they want to work with. So I'm going to be very upfront and tell them where we're at. And typically we carry the process on a lot further than most lenders do, so it's easy to disclose where we're at in any situation. But definitely having those conversations of money is a big deal. How much money do we have? Do they have reserves? Are we cutting it to the penny with concessions required, or with what they're offering on this house? I definitely disclose that information because I feel like it's important to know.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those gray areas. If we're asking for 3% and my buyer only really needs 2%, well, I definitely want them to get the full 3%. So I don't want to disclose too much, but at the same time, I don't want them to shy away from the deal if 2% is what it's going to.
But as far as the listing agent, it's also asking, framing the questions in the right way. And Ryan, I would just say to our listeners that are thinking about selling their home and they're interviewing agents, I think that this is one of the key questions that you need to ask the agent is, what is your vetting process? Because if we're going to submit an offer to our seller to consider, we got to have as much of the story about that buyer as possible. It's not simply, here's 3 contracts, and this contract's this contract's this contract's this. It's here's as much of the stories as we can get about these 3 buyers.
And so that's true, and I think that we can definitely go down that rabbit hole with that. I don't feel like that's the real, I don't feel like that's the real hard point of what's going on right now when it comes to things backing out. I think that, like what we're doing in listing situations is we're finding out how dedicated these people are to selling their homes, because you've got to understand, these people that are putting a sign up, there's an 80% plus chance that they have a 2 or 3 in front of their interest rate. And so what we're asking them to do is to sell that interest rate at 2 and 3 and then buy at high 6, mid 6, right?
Right.
And so a lot of that motivation goes out the window as a seller when you're like $52,000 and to repair the foundation. Yeah, I'm not that interested in moving. And so
This house is vacant. They were interested in moving.
well, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Because we're so used to when it's a heavy seller's market, it's still a seller's market as far as price, as far as inventory might go, but days on market would suggest otherwise, right? But still, I think that there's so many sellers that have one foot in the market and the other foot out. And so I as a buyer want to know, I don't care if there's 10 of us lining up for it. I want to know, is this seller dedicated to selling their home? And then I can use that ammunition to help our buyers win contracts and see it all the way through, whether it be an inspection or maybe if rates were to go up a little bit more again, or whatever the scenario that might discourage a buyer or seller from transacting.
Well, Justin has 100% guaranteed that rates will never, ever, ever, ever go up again. So good on you, Justin. Not true.
This is a money back guarantee right here, right now from Justin.
So Mike and Ryan are the investors on this.
Justin's over here feeling like a penny waiting for change.
Well, I will say this. Not all agents are created equal. There's a lot of fantastic agents out there, but if you are getting ready to sell your home, there's so much more to the story. I think sellers just get caught up in how much are you going to list my house for and what are you going to charge me? And it doesn't matter what an agent's going to charge them if they can't take them to the finish line. And we have some incredible strategies and processes, and we'd love to have that conversation with you. If you're thinking about putting your house on the market, all you got to do is text the word BACK to 623-AZ-RECON. That's the word BACK to 623-AZ-RECON.